Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first story today is from someone who went to Home Depot. They were having a mice problem, apparently infested with mice, and they went to Home Depot to get something to try to cure the problem. And they felt very blessed because while they were at the aisle where all of the chemicals and traps for mice are, 2 other people showed up who have a lot of experience with successful products, and they were able to give this person a lot of great advice. So they felt it was a blessing from God that they showed up exactly when this person was there shopping and got excellent hand-on advice, not just from a professional, but from people who know that the products that they were going to be buying really work. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who went shopping at Stop and Shop, and as they were walking into the entrance, they remembered something like a year ago, approximately a year ago, they had a thought that they would meet a certain person in there, a friend of theirs, that they hadn't seen in a while. And a year ago, when they had that thought, they walked inside, and sure enough, they did meet this person. So they were blown away by the miracle because they had an inspiration, they had an idea as they were walking in the store a year earlier. So today they were reminiscing about that. And sure enough, they went in, did all of their shopping, and on the way out, they were in the checkout line, checking out with the things they had purchased. And right there in the same checkout line was the same person from a year ago. And so this is a great coincidence miracle, and it certainly shows that God does inspire us. He does give us thoughts into our mind, because this person now 2 times they went to Stop and Shop, and a year apart, and they had a thought that they were going to see a certain person, and sure enough, when they went inside, they did. And apparently, they don't see this person very often, so it's like mental telepathy. They were getting a premonition. They were going to see this person twice, and 12 months apart, apparently. It's a beautiful story, and it certainly proves that God does put ideas into our minds, and we call that inspirations. It's 2 words. Inspiration is 2 words. Incoming of the Spirit That's what it means. When you get an inspiration, it means the Spirit of God is coming into you and giving you a thought. And the word idea is 2 words, I plus Deo, and Deo is the Latin word for God. So when you get ideas, or inspirations, that is or can often be God talking to you. Our next story is from someone who went to the hospital for a stress test. I don't know if you all know what that means, but I had to go for a stress test one day, and in my case, it was disaster. I was exhausted. I thought I was going to have a heart attack just because of the test. They do something like have you run on a treadmill for a long time at a certain speed, and you're out of breath and you're huffing and puffing, and if you have a heart condition, you're concerned you're not going to make it, and they have you go as long as you can until you're forced to stop to see what your readings are. So this person went through that process, and it's not a very pleasant experience because you're really getting exhausted and you don't know if you can take the stress. But she tells us that when she got to her car, she found that there was a car parked right next to her with a number 888 on the license plate, and 888 means the presence of Jesus. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who went shopping at Big Y, and while they were in there shopping, they saw someone who was apparently something like 29 years old, an attractive young lady around 29 years old, and they got inspired. They heard on our past shows, our past broadcasts, how some people, while they're shopping, when they see someone dressed in a special way, the clothing they're wearing is very attractive, or their hairstyle is attractive, or something about the person is captivating, to say hello and compliment people. So we've had other people do this, and we've shared stories on the radio before. When we're out shopping and we're seeing strangers, if you notice something that's complimentary, hopefully you'll notice God inspiring you to say something. It's a great way to brighten up people's day. We never know that someone very attractive has never been told that in their whole life, and we've had people tell us about encounters like that. You compliment somebody on, I don't know, maybe the shirt they're wearing, and they've never been complimented ever for their clothing. It's uplifting. So this particular person, remembering our past shows and seeing this attractive person, by the way, the person sharing this story with us is over 70 years old, so they made the point they weren't trying to get a date, they were just trying to practice, pay a compliment. So they took a deep breath and they walked over and said, "Hey, I just thought I'd stop and say to you, I'm really impressed. I've been noticing your expressions and your smiling as you're talking to other people and asking clerks questions. I was noticing you're an extremely pleasant person and very attractive, and I thought I would just compliment you." And the lady responded with, "Well, if you know anybody 29 or 30, please tell them to get in touch with me. I keep flapping my left hand out there in public. Hopefully somebody will notice I don't have a ring on. I'm really in the market." So they started laughing because this was quite an encounter. She's trying to get dates, but she's not getting them, and there she is, very attractive. So you see, this was a great moment. And then the person sharing the story says that when they finished checking out and they got to their car, they felt like they got hit in the head with a baseball bat, because it dawned on them they should have told the young lady about an organization she had heard about. So she goes back into the store. She looks around and tries to find the young lady. Sure enough, she finds her, and she walks over and says, "Excuse me, but I got to my car and I realized I should have told you about Young People CrsRods. There's an organization called CrsRods for young people or youth in the Columbia area that is publicized as a group that meets monthly for young people, who are looking for dating opportunities. And so they had a great discussion, and the young woman was delighted to hear the story, and she's going to look into it. So the coincidence miracle was that this person heard on our show about, reaching out to people, complimenting people. So the coincidence was they brought it up, and it worked wonders. It helped someone who's flapping their left hand out there to show they don't have a ring to now have a place where they can go and meet a lot of people up to their age. I think that group, as I recall, goes from something like 20 years old or 18 years old up to 39 years old or something like that. It's a wide range of ages for people to meet and socialize. And by the way, if you meet somebody 39 and you're looking to date somebody who's 18, the person who's 39 knows a lot of people who are 18 who could put you in touch with them. So hopefully this whole story today is helping people who are looking for dates and somebody to date. Look up CrsRods young people meetings in Columbia or Connecticut. Certainly in Connecticut, I think there's 6 cities in Connecticut that have these monthly meetings called CrsRoad meetings. Our next coincidence miracle story is from someone who was scheduled to go into the hospital for a procedure, and they expected they would be in the hospital for probably 3 days. And so, because this came up suddenly, they weren't prepared, and they had to get some dental work done that had to get done before they went into the hospital, if at all possible. And they had to change the prescription on some of their meds. Not change, but I think fill the prescription before they went to the hospital. And so they were out, tying up loose ends in town, driving around, and they thought they got inspired to just pop into the doctor's offices and try to get this done because, they were going into the hospital for 3 days, and it sounded like they were going in a couple of days. So that's what they did. They were inspired. They asked God for help, and they just popped in. And in both cases, they were surprised because these normal, very, very busy practices apparently had just enough time between 2 meetings coming up, other patients, where this person was allowed to take 5 minutes or so to clarify what they needed to get done. And in the dentist's case, they were able to take them that very day and solve their dental problem. So I shared things like this in the past, and some of you might think this is a redundant story, but it works. When you are inspired by God to pop in, then just do it. I mean, what do you have to lose? Your other option is you go home and you play telephone tag and you're on the phone for an hour, and all you're trying to do is ask the question. So if you pop in, you get a quick answer. They're available or they're not, and they can squeeze you in or not. So I take it to be a coincidence miracle, the fact that they popped into 2 doctors in this case, and they were able to get help right there on the spot because they popped in at the right moment. Our next coincidence miracle is about someone who was driving around running a lot of minor, small chores, and they got inspired to turn the car around and drive over to CVS to pick up some over-the-counter meds that they knew they needed. They forgot to put them on their list, so it was an inspiration. They turned the car around, and coming toward them was a car with 3 7s on the license plate, a great sign that God had intervened. They got to CVS. They got 50% off that day because those meds were on sale that day. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.